I have to put this on the table. So a world with fewer prisons or no prisons would be a better world, maybe. And we need to rethink how it is that the anti-Black domination that you were talking about in general is playing itself out specifically through criminal justice, policing, and imprisonment. I want to talk about crime. And I hope I won't be dismissed in talking about crime as somebody who's tried to blur the clarity of the dominations, whatever, because I want to talk about victims and I want to talk about violence, anti-Black violence perpetrated by Black people. And I hope we're not going to deprive them of their agency and of the dignity of their humanity by ascribing their behavior to some general unnamed forces that are, lurking everywhere of anti-Blackness. I hope that we're going to get granular and dealing with what it is that I'm talking about. So I could cite statistics, but I don't think I need to.
Sure, no, I think we should get granular, right? Those who are causing harm very often have been harmed themselves, right? This is a tragic world. This is a fallen world. There are deep problems of violence in our American society, and they're not straightforward, sort of discrete problems. One person causing this act to another person. It's one person who has had a series of harms caused to them who's now causing harm to another, right? That doesn't justify, the one act by the one person. But it means that we have a big, complicated problem that we have to address, and we have to address it in lots of different ways and lots of different strategies. And we can't just fixate on one act or name a problem like Black on Black violence as sort of the end of the conversation.
I didn't want it to be the end. I wanted it to be the beginning of the conversation, and I wanted to say, while those forces that you allude to certainly exist, what is the world that we invite if we don't extend the as I say, dignity to the person of holding them responsible for their actions? I mean, that's not the only thing we're going to do. That's not the end of the conversation. But I take a pistol, I fire it out the window of my car, the bullet goes through the head of some 6-year-old sitting on their grandmother's lap. I mean, what exactly was the response supposed to be? That starts happening at a scale that the quality of life in the community is genuinely diminished. Is it really politically unacceptable to talk about that in a world without prisons? Help me understand that. I'm sorry. Forgive my naivete.
No, and I think here we probably have some similar instincts, right? That if we're going to hold someone responsible, it shouldn't be, it should be those around them who are best suited to hold them responsible. The state, at a distance, at a level of abstraction, is probably not the best entity to hold responsible, those who have been harmed and are harming others, right? We need to empower this really micro-level communities and neighborhoods to hold each other accountable, to have the resources to hold each other accountable. But that's not the job of this abstract state set of sentencing guidelines or a police force where the folks are coming in from the police are coming in from the suburbs and think that they know what's going on with one person doing one thing to another when they don't realize the complexity of that family, that community, that neighborhood.
So, Vincent, do you mean that if there's a carjacking, bunch of Black teens, often it's girls these days, there's a carjacking and they grab somebody out of their car, the person resists and they stab him, and the person might die, and that's not just an anecdote, that's ordinary in some places. In some cities, for some reason, that kind of becomes a copycat thing. Are you saying that the solution to that is not incarceration and all of that and the cops coming in and, possibly, overdoing it, doing something wrong? The solution is that their mamas and their grandmothers are going to tell them what for and bring them around because they're part of the community? And then maybe sister whatever, this sort of matriarchal figure that a lot of inner city neighborhoods have, who sort of takes care of everybody and has a certain wisdom, in her early 60s. So those girls are going to go sit at her feet, and therefore they most likely won't carjack again, and that'll set them on the straight and narrow, and that would be better than the criminal justice system. Is that the sort of thing that you mean?
we've had half a century of getting used to the criminal justice system as the best solution to these sorts of problems. And it's a really elaborate system, and it has a kind of naturalness to it. What you're describing, John, seems unnatural. It's not what we're used to, and it isn't well developed. I agree, right? There are a lot of experiments that need to happen in order to get those sorts of local, neighborhood-based, family, community-based systems to work well, right? We need to encourage those sorts of experiments. But if the choice is put someone in a cage, right, away from their family, away from those who love them, right, away from those who could transform their soul, right, the choice is between keeping them in a cage far away or reintegrating them into their community with the help of family and neighbors. I'm going to choose the latter.
Yeah, the word utopian is on the tip of my tongue. I don't know how we get there from here, and I'm not sure we should try to get there, but I haven't thought it completely through. We're not a village society or, and where the thickness of communal ties can be sufficient to actually carry out the administrative task. I mean, crime solving, for example. How do you solve crimes? You have to investigate them. You need an administrative structure to do that. What are courts? I mean, courts are nothing but a venue within which a deliberation, which then has the force of in the law and of the police that enforce what happens in the court to actually impose whatever their rulings are. The courts are embedded within a larger kind of hierarchy of relationships and power dynamics. Plus, here we are, a political community where the United States of America, we have to deal with the diversity and the complexity of our society.
I agree. It's a big problem. It's a big task, right? But keeping more than 2 million folks in cages right now, is a moral abomination, right? To keep humans in cages, away from their loved ones, is something that we need to say no to right away. And even if we don't know exactly what the solution is going to look like right now, if we are confronted with a moral abomination right now, we need to forcefully say no and encourage experimentation for living together otherwise.
It sounds like you mean something like August Wilson's Pittsburgh, like a tight-knit Black community where everybody can kind of take care of their own. It reminds me of Maya Angelou during the O.J. Simpson disaster, saying, let the Black community take care of it. And I remember thinking, so she means we're supposed to smack him on the back of the hand and, there's supposed to be some mother wit. There's a model. What you're referring to is a trope. I mean, it's something that people say and something that people think about. I can't say I've ever thought it quite worked for modernity. So for example, if you read about a housing project in the early 60s, the alarm is that people are taking out knives. That was bad enough. But when you're dealing with the guns, when you're dealing with the sorts of things that have become a norm now because the Overton window has shifted, I wonder what Grandma or Sister Watkins can do. I take your point in the old days, but I have a hard time extending it to now. I see what you mean, but I'm not sure you can put the toothpaste back in the tube.
I want to ask you a question, John. Do you agree that 2 million people in cages is a moral abomination?
Keeping too many people in cages for too long is a moral abomination.
2 million people.
You said 2 million.
No, well, I'm repeating what Vincent said. He made a very clear declaration about a moral principle. He says the alternative to what he proposes is to hold people in cages, and we are doing that, and there are 2 million plus. Number is less than it used to be. It's been trending down, not up, but it's still a lot of people. And I'm asking you whether or not you agree that that's a moral abomination.
I'm not sure where to place the numbers, but to the extent that there are too many people, such as Glenn, I've learned from you over the years, the number is too large. But I think that a very significant number of people do need to be in cages. There are people who are unappeasably violent, and the reason might be something their father did to them. But here in the present, that person should be kept off the street, out of the classrooms, out of relationships, not make any more kids. Some of those people do need to be in cages, and it's not just 5 or 6. However, that too many people have been made to go to prison for too long, people who did something wrong at 20 and they're still in there when they're 58. No, there are changes that need to be made, but I would not, and I don't mean to caricature, but I would not say that no one should be put in a cage except an absolute psychopath. I think that they're cages for a reason.